Today on Newsgirls, Trump hosts a meme coin dinner. The top 25 investors will also receive an invitation to a VIP White House tour.
The Trump administration is giving out a cash stipend of $1,000 to undocumented immigrants who willingly leave the U.S.
New York's war on rats
passed a bill to start using rat birth control to curb rat populations.
We're honored to speak to the rat czar of New York City.
So I just want to be mindful of where and how we're talking about rats.
And Sinners kicks off the summer box office. Amazing. Seriously, unlike any movie I've ever seen.
The not so great movie that we watched this past weekend, Another Simple Favor.
I keep hearing that Superman is going to save cinema.
Welcome to Newsgirls.
I'm Wren.
And I'm Mabel.
Let's get into the stories. Well, it took us 3 months into Trump's administration to realize we are doing so many Trump rundowns, we might as well give it a title.
Yes, the same Newsgirl segment you all love, but with a brand new name.
So, introducing the first installment of Trumpdates. The Trump administration ended a civil rights era school desegregation order in Louisiana. So basically they said upholding integration standards is an unnecessary burden on schools and called desegregation orders a historical wrong.
Yeah, the historical wrong of fighting racism. So now that they've withdrawn from this 1966 order, the school board won't have to devote local precious resources that goes to data reporting or busing students over an issue that ended, quote, 2 generations ago.
2 generations isn't a long time. To change something as big as racism after segregation, 2 generations is nothing.
And apparently 130 other school systems fall under these desegregation orders as well, and Trump officials have expressed desire to pull out of those as well. They're saying this is getting America refocused on our bright future.
And the Trump administration wants to reinterpret a lot of civil rights laws to focus on anti-white racism. So policies aimed at giving minorities economic opportunities or recent programs made in response to George Floyd.
Yeah, it's clear that this is some weird priority. So in March, the Trump administration removed guidelines that bar federal contractors from running segregated facilities like restaurants, waiting rooms, and drinking fountains.
A CBS poll found that 58% of Trump voters believe that people of color are advantaged over white people. I don't even know what to say to that.
The official website for Trump's meme coin announced that the top 220 holders of the coin would be invited to an intimate private dinner with the president at his golf club later this month.
The top 25 investors will also receive an invitation to a VIP White House tour. So no surprise, Trump meme coin surged more than 50% after this dinner was announced, boosting its market value to $2.7 billion.
But surprisingly, Senate Republicans are raising red flags about this since obviously politically motivated actors could use this opportunity to curry favor with the president. There's just so much conflict of interest that could be introduced. And actually, we made this point in our ethics pledge piece when Trump introduced those coins.
Yeah, while it might not technically be illegal, Trump supporting senator from Wyoming even said, "This is the Wild West. We need to legislate so there are rules."
And this meme coin dinner situation is just one amongst a blitz of money-making moves by the Trump family to capitalize on Trump's presidency. Donald Trump Jr. co-founded a private membership club in DC called Executive Branch. So it costs $500,000 a person, making it one of the most expensive membership clubs in the country. And it's expected to open this summer.
That is a really good name. The club will have 2 bars, a lounge, a restaurant, and a boardroom. So it'll basically fill the role that the lobby of Trump's DC hotel filled during his first term, where donors and supporters can cozy up to the Trump family.
But apparently no members of the media will be allowed.
Oh no, so we can't join?
No Newsgirls on the scene, unfortunately, but we did find out who this club is intended for, and it's for the younger, hipper, Trump-aligned Republican. And the launch party was this A-list affair a few weekends ago. It included members of Trump's administration, wealthy CEOs, tech founders, and policy experts, so all the DC elite. President Trump just released his $1.7 trillion budget blueprint, and it's aiming to cut $163 million for the 2026 fiscal year. And obviously, this is just the president's wish list. It still has to be approved by Congress, but it's a good way to kind of see where the president's head is at. And we found out internally the budget is being called a joint project with Doge.
And he's clearly focused on the important things because it says DEI 31 times in the budget docs. It also says woke 12 times and gender 14 times. And he's using these classifications to make sweeping cuts 56% to the National Science Foundation.
The plan is also proposing to eliminate entire programs like permanent supportive housing for the homeless and housing assistance for Native Americans. The budget randomly also cuts over $2 billion to a federal program that finances water quality projects.
Trump also wants to chop the CDC's budget in half and completely eliminate the Center for Injury Prevention, which worked to reduce rates of gun violence, drug overdoses, car accidents, and even childhood drownings.
He also wants to close the Center for Chronic Disease Prevention. I don't know why. CDC officials were told that some of the functions of the center would actually be moved to a new organization called the Administration for a Healthy America. So I can just smell the RFK.
It's definitely Maha. Trump proposes to slash another $26 billion from foreign aid and end America's contribution to the UN peacekeeping missions and the National Endowment for Democracy.
Interestingly, the budget is creating a $2.9 billion America First Opportunity Fund that focuses on strategic investments. So that includes repatriations, countering China, and supporting critical partners such as India and Jordan.
Trump would also increase spending to, no surprise, the Pentagon, but most of that would go to SpaceX programs, so $7 billion to explore the moon and $1 billion to explore Mars. So Elon must be jumping for joy right now.
And then, of course, not a shocker to anyone, the budget lists an increase in U.S. military spending to over $1 trillion, which is actually a 13% increase. But apparently an increase in defense spending is this popular global trend that we're seeing, especially after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. More than 100 countries have cited doing the same in the past year, which of course means that comes at the expense of other departments.
And that sounds like a lot of money, but a lot of Republicans are actually outraged by how little it is. One senator said the proposed spending levels would shred to the bone our military capabilities and our support for service members.
And this budget isn't the first or last of what we've seen of Trump's cuts. He's been making them through executive orders and DOJ on his first day in office. So a lot of what he's targeting, like the CDC and international affairs, isn't a surprise to anyone, but we'll see what Congress passes and what other means Trump might resort to get those cuts.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is hosting special press briefings for mega influencers. So far, she's held at least 3 with 25 influencers who all have a history of explicit support for Trump or have personal connections to him.
And there were some interesting influencers in attendance, like Sean Spicer, who is literally Trump's former press secretary. He is 53, but I guess he's been demoted to being an influencer now. And he seems like he was thrilled to be there. He complimented Trump for his commitment to transparency and then asked why Trump bothered to sit for interviews with mainstream outlets.
Also in attendance was right-wing influencer Aaron Wexler, who kicked things off with an anti-immigrant joke.
And I can attest to the deportations in Florida. My Uber drivers finally speak English again, so thank you for that. But my question for you is...
She went on to ask a question about how Trump will punish institutions that defy his executive order about men masquerading as trans women.
And then Wren and I were dying over this one. So pro-Trump TikTok influencer Link Lauren is apparently branded by the internet as MAGA Malfoy.
No, this cannot be real. And you can see his roots coming in, so clearly he dyes his hair to look like Malfoy.
I don't know what kind of world we're living in right now. His question to Caroline Leavitt at the briefing was, "You're a very high-profile young mother who seems to juggle and balance it all beautifully. What advice do you have to young parents out there?" So glad Malfoy is asking the hard-hitting political questions.
Well, Trump's team has been making an effort to engage creators, and Caroline said tens of millions of Americans are now turning to social media to consume their news. A select group of journalists will no longer have a monopoly over press access here at the White House.
The Trump administration is giving out a cash stipend of $1,000 as well as paid travel home to undocumented immigrants who willingly leave the U.S. So officials are saying that the program will save the government money by avoiding the cost of arrest, detaining, and flying people out on government planes.
The first migrant to take the government up on their offer flew from Chicago back to his home country of Honduras. And as of last week, the Trump administration has already deported over 140,000 migrants just since January.
Which is still a long ways away from the Trump campaign's promise to deport millions. So the administration is kind of resorting to more creative, out-of-the-box solutions to not only get rid of migrants, but where to place them after they're deported. So Rwanda is actually in talks with the Trump administration to take deported migrants.
And the Trump administration just announced plans to deport a whole group of migrants to Libya, where human rights groups have called the conditions in its migrant detention centers horrific. Trump's getting torn apart by veterans groups after announcing he wants to change Veterans Day to be called Victory Day for World War I. World War II vets would still be honored on VE Day, which he also wants to change to Victory Day for World War II. But by limiting who is honored, Trump leaves almost every living veteran without a day to honor their sacrifice.
Yeah, it's a super disrespectful and kind of like unnecessary move. Most living veterans didn't fight in the world wars. So out of the 16 million vets in the US, only 66,000 of World War II veterans are still alive, and obviously no World War I vets are alive. So why like narrow the scope of the holiday and exclude all the people that fought in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan?
So the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America said it's not the veterans' fault if we didn't win wars. Veterans Day should be acknowledgement of all the ways that fellow Americans have served to protect and defend what we have in America. And the disabled American veterans simply replied to Trump's post, no.
But only Congress can actually create binding federal holidays, so Trump can't like unilaterally push this name change for Veterans Day on all of us, so we might be safe from that one.
Oh no, we ran out of time to talk about Trump's plan to reopen Alcatraz as a functioning prison and his plan to tariff foreign movies.
I know there's always so much news like swirling around these days. We always run out of time. So everyone make sure to comment below what political story you want us to cover next week. New York has been at war with rats for centuries, and even though a government official went viral for saying that rats don't run the city,
the rats are absolutely going to hate this announcement. The rats don't run this city.
it sometimes feels like they do.
Yeah, like when a couple found a dead rat floating in their takeout soup, like warning, the picture is disgusting. But luckily, the Korean restaurant was immediately shut down by health inspectors.
Then here's this video of a rat being ironic and sitting in the window of a restaurant next to a grade A sanitation rating sign.
It's reassuring. And we can't forget the professor that says his car has been attacked by rats 4 times, even after he's wrapped his wires in minty tape and poured garlic-scented liquid on his engine. He says they will find you and they all know each other and they will talk to each other.
I feel like they'd be like attracted to garlic. They're not vampires. Clearly, there is such a fear and fascination with rats in the city. Fun fact, for Wren's Halloween party in 2019, I actually went as a rabid L-train rat. So
She did. I can attest.
clearly that was foreshadowing this story. And nobody knows exactly how many rats there are like scurrying around the city, but they're estimated to be millions. Apparently 2 rats in a given year can reproduce 15,000 descendants. So that should give you an idea of the scale we're talking about.
That is literally horrifying to me. Apparently rats are spotted on 40% of subway rides. That's like almost half.
Oh my God.
And their swarms peak at 2 a.m., which is why we see them way more often after dark. And of all the boroughs, Brooklyn has by far the most rat complaints. So good call being an L-train rat.
And as we all know, New York Mayor Eric Adams has this like weird vendetta against rats. So just last September, he hosted the first ever National Urban Rat Summit where officials around the country came together to discuss their strategies on the war against rats. So quote, let's be energetic, let's share ideas, let's figure out how we unify against what I consider to be public enemy number 1, Mickey and his crew.
And if you're thinking, but Mickey was a mouse, not a rat, well, it turns out when Adams was a kid, his older siblings adopted a pet rat and named it Mickey, and it traumatized him for some reason. He says, to this day, I'll face the biggest criminal before I'll face a rat.
Okay. But what got national attention was in 2023 when Adams announced the city's first rat czar, Kathy Corradi, and gave her $3.5 million to reduce the city's rat population after sightings doubled in 2022.
Among the initiatives Kathy has launched is an education program aimed at inducting residents into the city rat pack. You must attend a rat academy class, go on a rat walk with the rat czar herself, and volunteer in a local project. Only then are you an official member of the Rat Pack and are bestowed upon with the prize a Rat Pack t-shirt or hat, but not both.
And a staggering 200 New Yorkers have completed the trifecta so far. So we are on a journey to get those t-shirts because we need them.
We really do.
So we went on a rat walk last week.
Yeah, and you can see we're by the trash, which would
Fitting.
yeah, looking for rats.
This is literally a dream come true. Ever since like Newsgirls was invented, we wanted to do this story.
If you are here to be an official New York City Rat Pack member and get some great swag, I have stickers. So I always want to be mindful of where and how we're talking about rats. Who knows what species of rats we have in New York City? Norway rat. It's called the Norway rat. Any other names for this animal? Sewer rat, wharf rat, brown rat. Those are all names, and it's called the Norway rat, but that's actually a misnomer. These rats are not from Norway. What I like to say, turn our fear and fascination into empowerment and action. And you can see it on this side really well. Is a lot of our old sewer systems are built with brick. Fact or fiction, a rat can come up through your toilet bowl. So it is fact. A Norway rat only needs something larger than a quarter to fit its whole body through a space. So the minute a sewer pipe gets a hole bigger than a quarter, they can exploit that. We're looking for where are they eating, where are they living, how are they traveling. They like to travel in straight lines. I promise you, a rat is more scared of you than you are of it. This is a rat burrow. Like I mentioned, this animal preferred habitat, nice, rich, healthy soil. But essentially what a rat burrow is, it's a series of holes, usually 3 holes, 6 inches to as low as 3 feet down, about 3 feet wide, and in there is their nest. Mounding of dirt behind tells us this is actively maintained. And what you'll notice here is a multiple of openings.
It was literally an hour long in a local park, but we left feeling truly enlightened and got these stickers.
Super cool stickers. But yeah, we learned a lot. Like, the city is no longer using rat poison after it killed an owl, R.I.P. Flacco.
Yeah, it's actually illegal now. Apparently, the city confiscated 140 pounds of rat poison just last month.
So they're getting creative with other measures, like one called rat ice, which basically puts dry ice, which is just carbon dioxide, into a rat burrow to suffocate them.
And then just a couple weeks ago, New York passed a bill to start using rat birth control to curb rat populations. So apparently the pellets are really sweet, so like rats want to eat them. And there's a compound in them that targets ovarian function in female rats and sperm production in male rats. So literally gross.
So to learn more about rat birth control, health risks, how these initiatives are going, and how to protect yourself and your area from rats, we're honored to speak to the rat czar of New York City, Kathy Corradi.
When Eric Adams announced New York's war on rats and appointed you as rat czar, it made national headlines and the news kind of went viral. Can you paint the picture of what was happening in the city at the time with all the rats?
We were at a place with rats during the COVID-19 crisis where changes in sanitation, changes in human behavior, changing where the bulk of the food source went for rats. So we saw shifting rat populations. Rats had changed their behaviors. And if there's one thing we know about Rattus norvegicus, the species of rat we have in New York City, is that they thrive in our urban spaces, particularly when we have gaps in our operations or gaps in how we address issues.
So tell us about some of those actions and initiatives that you've started and continued through.
So I'd say that the biggest one was the codifying and expansion of our rat mitigation zones. So rat burden is not equal across New York City. We have extra attention and resources on our city-owned properties, so our parks, our housing facilities, our schools. We inspect every single property in our rat mitigation zones at least 2 times a year.
Wow.
New York City is talking about garbage in a whole new way. Right now, as we chat here, 70% of New York City waste is now required to be containerized. So that is a garbage can with a tight fitting lid. And we expect to see really positive things in our mitigation efforts.
Obviously, this will take a while to fully feel the effects, but have you seen any so far?
Yeah, thanks for that, Wren. Rats didn't come overnight. So it's an unrealistic expectation to think that they'll go away overnight. And 311 complaints related to rat sightings have been in decline, about 5% down from 2022 to 2024. So that's data we look at that tells us people are potentially seeing less rats across our city. The other piece that I think is really exciting for me because it's from our Department of Health team who sends out trained inspectors to look very thoroughly at properties, just like we did yesterday on the rat walk. 3,000 more properties are passing their inspections than did 2 years ago.
Do you see fewer rats in your day-to-day when you're not out hunting for them?
Well, I'm not very fun to take out on neighborhood walks sometimes. Because
you're always looking for
I'm
a
always
rat burrow.
looking. I spend a lot of time looking down. I have a different lens on it, but I get feedback all the time that people say they're seeing less rats, they're feeling the effect.
We were wondering about the rat birth control because we saw the headlines that was a measure you guys were starting. How is that going?
Yeah, so we are always looking at ways to expand our toolkit around control. The Department of Health is piloting a birth control contraceptive up in Community Board 9, and we're excited to see how that rolls out. It is a year-long pilot.
So we have some true or false questions for you because, as you mentioned on the Rat Walk yesterday, there are so many myths kind of surrounding rats in New York City. So there are more rats in New York than people. True or false?
False. We do not have a rat census. We know where we have higher rat burden. And one thing I'd love to plug is the Department of Health rat portal.
True or false? Rats spread diseases.
That is true. So rats are a public health concern. Our kind of most prevalent disease that is spread by rats is something called leptospirosis. It's caused by a bacteria that is shed in rat urine. The good news is with proper PPE, hand washing, closed-toed shoes, goggles, it can do a lot to rebuff the potential infection.
The next true or false, if you're walking through like a highly congested rat area, you should be scared that one might like come up and like bite you.
Unlikely. I understand the jump scare, right? It's something scurrying. What was that? I think there's an innate fear that we have, but there's limited concern if you're walking on a street that a rat is going to cause you any harm.
And lastly, true or false? The rats run this city.
That is false. New Yorkers run this city. We are all, we're the people who get to choose how we tell our story.
The summer movie season kicked off last weekend, and already we're seeing some high highs and some low lows.
Yeah, we saw Sinners and Another Simple Favor, so guess which is which?
We'll start with the positives. Sinners was amazing. So it's set in Jim Crow era Mississippi when twin brothers, who are both played by Michael B. Jordan.
Two Michael B. Jordans, lucky us, am I right?
Return to their hometown to open a social club for the Black community, but they are unexpectedly confronted by supernatural evil. And it's seriously unlike any movie I've ever seen. Like, it merges so many things into one, like horror, thriller, gothic. There's beautiful blues music and vampires, and yet somehow it pulls it all off.
Yeah, it was cinematically beautiful. The acting was amazing, and it was just such an original movie. And that was just so refreshing since we're living in the era of like franchises and sequels.
So to no one's surprise, it's both a commercial and a critical success. In its third weekend at the box office, it's already passed $230 million, making it one of the biggest original hits in North America in over a decade. And the critics are raving too.
Yeah, Variety said that Sinners is the first Oscar movie of 2025. They said what Sinners accomplishes is deceptively radical. It treats horror not as shock, but as soul.
It's a New York Times critics pick, and Rotten Tomatoes called it one of the best films of the year. So everyone is heaping praise on the writer and director Ryan Coogler, who previously co-wrote and directed Black Panther and the Rocky spinoff Creed.
Whoa, so he's just worked with Michael B. Jordan on all of these movies.
He's been in every single movie he's ever done. But there's a lot of conversation right now about the unprecedented deal that Coogler negotiated for this movie.
Right, so there was this heated bidding war amongst all the big studios when the script was first circulating in 2024, until Coogler's list of non-negotiables came to light. The most controversial being that he would own the rights to Sinners in 2050, so 25 years after the movie's release.
Which is super rare. Like, only an elite group of directors like Quentin Tarantino have ever demanded a rights reversion agreement before. So because of this, all of the major studios passed on the movie except Warner Brothers.
So, quote, studios exist for one simple reason, which is to build a library. The lifetime long-term value of our film properties is what makes a studio a studio. So the whole idea of building up your library and you lose it in 25 years, wait a second, you just give up all your revenue down the line.
The contract also gave Coogler final cut rights, which is only reserved for the industry's like creme de la creme, and a piece of the box office revenue right from the start instead of having to wait for the studio to turn a profit. So Coogler's justification in asking for all of this was because the movie is about Black ownership, so it was important for him to fight for just that.
And now let's switch to the not-so-great movie that we watched this past weekend, Another Simple Favor, starring Blake Lively, Anna Kendrick, and Michele Morrone, that somehow is the #1 movie worldwide on Amazon Prime right now.
You guys, I am not even exaggerating when I say this is the worst movie I have ever seen. And I love, like, cheesy rom-com murder mystery, like, but this is bad even by lowbrow standards.
No, like it was truly unforgivable, and I wasn't even like a fan of the first Simple Favor that came out in 2018, but this one was horrifically worse. Basically, Anna Kendrick's character continues her life as like a pseudo-famous mommy vlogger, and is surprised when Blake Lively's character gets out of jail and asks her to be her maid of honor at her like glamorous wedding in Capri, Italy. So there's drama and secrets and death, and of course twins.
And obviously this movie coming out amid all of the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni ongoing legal saga adds an element of intrigue to it. And actually, A Simple Favor was pulled into that drama because Team Justin was pointing at Blake Lively's alleged feud with Anna Kendrick as proof that she's the problem.
Something the movie was also trying to focus on was the fashion element, but like they lost me on that too. There was not a single outfit in the movie that I liked.
Yeah, everyone's speculating Blake must have styled herself again.
Yeah, that was pretty obvious with the prison-inspired outfit. Like, I literally can't.
It's giving Sirius Black straight out of Azkaban.
It's a hot take. We'll show the picture. Apparently, the wedding dress Blake wore was like super heavy. It was actually 50 pounds and it was just breaking hangers. And the veil was 40 feet long and took 100 hours to make.
Well, no amount of craftsmanship could save this movie. It has a 67% of Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.4 on IMDb, which I personally think is way too high. The Washington Post said, do yourself a favor, decline Another Simple Favor, and gave it 1 star.
So will the summer box office be like a smash success or a dumpster fire? We have seen examples of both with Another Simple Favor and Sinners, so we're curious to see how it ends up being for the rest of the summer. There are some exciting movies in store, like Thunderbolts, a Marvel movie, is out now. Then we have Mission Impossible, which I can't wait for. Live action Lilo and Stitch, a John Wick spinoff with Ana de Armas, Elio, which is Pixar's first movie in a while, Jurassic World, Fantastic Four, and Freakier Friday.
I'm so excited for that one. Before the pandemic, every summer basically raked in $4 billion at the box office, like it was just a given. But since the pandemic, only one summer has achieved that, and it was Barbenheimer year. So Hollywood is hopeful that maybe it can do that again.
So we're talking to Mary Arndt, the host of the I Just Want to Chat podcast, who you probably remember from our segment on Emilia Perez and the Oscar-nominated movies. So we're asking her all about the real-life history behind Sinners, the unsettling plot twist in Another Simple Favor, and which summer blockbuster she's most excited to see.
So Mary, first we want to get your thoughts on the movie Sinners.
It's so good. It was like such an unexpected gem, right? Which is weird because it shouldn't be unexpected. It's Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan who deliver hit after hit after hit. Visually, a spectacle. I feel like we are so conditioned to green screens and other like type of technology. So when you see something being filmed on like a real set, that was just like a palate cleanser to a bunch of like junky CGI movies.
Like, what do you think made it so unique as a horror movie that even for like the non-horror fans, we were like, oh my God, this is amazing?
I am not a horror movie person. Are you guys?
No.
Yeah, I normally I'm not into that. I don't do those. I feel like it was really story first and then vampire movie second. I feel like at the core of Sinners, there's a super compelling drama going on. I kept making comparisons to how Judd Apatow, he says whenever he writes his classic comedies, he comes up with a compelling drama and a compelling story, and then the jokes come in after that. I feel like with this movie, that's what they did with horror. There was such a good story at the core, and then all the extra stuff was just icing on the cake.
And you posted your review of Sinners and you said it sent you down a Google rabbit hole.
I learned about Ryan Coogler's process of making this movie. He kind of broke the mold in Hollywood, and he was able to make this deal for this original movie that has no IP. And there was actually a lot of drama variety. Undersold the success of Sinners a little bit, and people think that it's motivated by the fact that Hollywood doesn't want creators making these kind of deals. Wow. People think that these negative stories and stuff in the press are kind of in retaliation to this insane deal, glass ceiling breaking deal that Ryan Coogler was able to make.
We've seen some Oscar buzz potentially, even though it's pretty early in the season.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say it's an Oscar nomination, do you think?
It's hard because of the time of year it was released in. But then again, 2 years ago, Everything Everywhere All at Once had an incredible year, huge sweep, and that movie was released in March. There's definitely opportunity, and I definitely think it's worthy.
Why are all of the Oscar movies typically at the end of the year, just so it's fresh in the voters' minds?
I know that studios, they do like to save these movies. That's why January through March is normally a dead zone for good movies. People call it Dumpuary because it's just months where like these are movies that the studios don't really care about. They're just kind of trying to get a return on their investment. And then there's the summer blockbusters, which those aren't really awards movies either, but those will bring out big crowds.
Well, switching gears a little bit to
Yes.
another simple favor. We are so curious, Marriott. Thoughts on the movie?
Okay. For what it was trying to do, it was fine. It was good, even, I would say. It's a soap opera. If you've seen the first one, it was very tonally similar. They maybe even like up the ante. I don't think it was as smart as the first one. That's my gripe with it. And there were some scenes where I was like dying laughing.
I will say the unsettling plot twist, that's like as far as the spoilers, did not sit well with me. And that like kind of ruined the movie for me because I was like, why would they choose this?
I mean, unfortunately, there's a whole like separate the art from the artist type of hurdle that they have to overcome where like no matter where you land on like the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni saga, there's just been so much Blake Lively and it's hard to separate right now when she is playing like glamorous character wearing fashion.
There's just been so many movies and TV shows about like rich people and like these like beautiful locations and there's some like murder mystery kind of going on. So sometimes it just feels a little like it's not like hitting it.
I know I did have that feeling recently. I was watching the trailer for the new movie. It has Steve Carell, Jason Schwartz, some other people, and they play a bunch of billionaires, like the richest men in the world. They're on a retreat while the apocalypse is happening. And I kind of felt the same thing.
It was funny that both Sinners and Another Simple Favor did the like one actor playing like twins. And it just happened in You also, where they had like the same actress playing the twins. That's something I'm getting a little tired of.
Yes, and Mickey 17. I don't know if you guys saw that one, the Robert Pattinson movie from March.
No.
Same deal. Multiple Robert Pattinsons. Which I mean, that's fine by me.
No complaints.
Give all of it to me. But yeah, thematically it's kind of weird.
Which of the upcoming summer blockbusters are you most excited to see?
I keep hearing that Superman is going to like save cinema. Like
Whoa.
that's what I keep hearing. Fantastic Four is going to be like another huge like Disney tentpole for the summer. I think Jurassic World will probably make a lot of money. I'm excited about Elio. Mission Impossible is whatever. I don't know. I think that it will make a lot of money internationally, but I don't think that we're going to have like the same summer box office that we had Oppenheimer Barbie year. But luckily we do have movies like Sinners that have showed that people will turn out for good, well-made original films, and people are thirsty for exciting stories from new voices and different points of view and filmed on real sets. There's changes coming, and I'm excited about it.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week to learn about Hollywood's intimacy coordinators.
Bye.